Hello there, and welcome to TapCaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast currently celebrating Canada Day by coming to you with a very special new Jedi Order themed episode of the podcast. We're finally talking about Destiny's Way. Our last NJO episode, other than the comics, was in January, talking about Traitor. So we're all very excited after 6 months to see whether Jason makes it home to his family. I am, of course, Corey, joined by my co-host, who is, of course, known for the sublime blue of the pouches beneath his eyes. It's Justin Eckhart's lad.
Very fuckable. Sorry. Yeah, it's from the book. It's from the book.
So
I say the sublime blue of my my beer fridge, which has a bottle of
well, that too. It reflects. It brings out your eyes.
My brown eyes.
The pouch is beneath your eyes.
Oh yeah.
But when I read this, the first, so after we did Traitor, the plan was going to be, we'd do this in 2 weeks, and then we didn't do that. But I'd read the book, and I had apparently made a note of use that for the intro. Then I reread it today and went to make that note and found my initial note. So I think,
God damn, this guy was cooking.
I do agree with myself a lot, apparently. But yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, happy Canada Day to all our fellow Canucks. Hopefully you're out there choking a protester today, or
pepper spray,
peeing on a G8 protester. But yeah, fun day. I didn't really do much, to be honest. I don't know about you, but I had a pretty quiet Canada Day. It's pretty crappy here today.
It's nice out today. We went for a walk, got some slushies, which I was telling you about before. I'm not that close to downtown, so I haven't been downtown for Canada Day for a while.
Yeah, I imagine it was a zoo.
Yeah. Well, they used to do stuff at Parliament Hill, but now I think they've mostly cut off any access to Parliament Hill after all this stupid fucking convoy shit. And now it's all Le Breton that it's at. And part of that is like transit to Le Breton is supposed to be easier with the train. But the station you're supposed to use for it is not, the capacity just isn't there. Yeah. So it's really local transit issues that I'm very passionate about.
That's good.
Any Star Wars news before we get into our Destiny's Way discussion?
Before that, I want to ask, how surprised were you when you messaged me today and you were like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "I'm already done."
I was floored, actually. I was like, I have like 75 pages left before I pick up this book. I'm going to check if Justin's actually read it. And then I got the affirmative, hit you with the yummy, and we were on our way.
Yeah, so I started reading and I was like, man, I've read this before, like recently. And I must have like I started on my computer and then like I went to go plug in my Kindle and I was like 13% of the way done. And I was just like skimming it and I was like, I remember all of this. So I'm assuming there must have been some point where we were trying to read it and it's just
I mean, it was January when we thought we'd do it. So
yeah. So what I did was I re-skimmed it and then I listened to the audiobook, which is 6 hours long, covered those sections, felt pretty good. But I missed the really fun first big battle. So I reread that part specifically.
The one with like the Hapens coming in?
Yes. Yeah. So that was fun. As for other Star Wars news, I don't think there's been a ton, has there? I mean, we discussed episode 6 or whatever it was of the Acolyte, episode 5. So I think we're pretty much caught up.
Yeah, and we will of course be back on Wednesday talking about episode 6. So any Star Wars news that we've missed, we'll be able to talk about then. But I guess, what were your overall thoughts?
Sorry, there was one bit of news. The Bounty Hunters game. I just remembered.
Right. Yes.
I've never played that, so I'm kind of excited.
I'm pretty sure I did play it. I think I played it on was it on GameCube? I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like I played it on something.
Maybe we should do that for an episode of TapCaf.
That'd be fun. Assuming it's playable, because Aspire is doing it, right?
Oh, is it Aspire?
I think so.
I thought it was the same. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, they do a lot of the ports, and if KOTOR 2 is anything to judge off of, I don't know if it's
I thought it was the Night Dive or whoever did the other one.
I don't think so. It might be. I thought it was Aspire.
I mean, the KOTOR ports are fine, but yeah.
I think KOTOR 2 you couldn't actually play for a while.
Minor issue.
Who needs to play? You just
It's
get
fine.
from
It's
Cray.
fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Just
about it.
philosophy of Cray video.
Yeah, you just read the text. They got all the text files in there.
All right. So, what were your overall thoughts on Destiny's Way now that it's in the bag?
A lot of good, a lot of bad, some bad
A
politics in
lot
here.
of bad.
Well,
Interesting.
not a lot of bad, a little bad. A lot of good, a little bad. But what
Okay.
was bad, I thought was fairly bad. Like, I don't know if I like how the entire philosophy of Luke or is handled. Like, I don't know if I like anything they did with Luke in this episode,
Guys,
in this book.
I thought I was going to have to genocide him. It was going to be awkward.
Yeah, he's like, I was going to genocide them, and it's just so okay. There's a few obvious. So in this is the book where the war finally turns for the New Republic. They've lost Coruscant. They've moved to Mon Calamari. They've set up the provisional council there. They're trying to elect a new chief of state. Luke and Lando steal an election. Like they bribe, they blackmail. Luke gets very involved. But as that is happening, they're also trying to figure out what's the deal with the Yuuzhan Vong. What's the deal with those Yuuzhan Vong? Because Jason is back now as well. He comes back. Him and Vergere come back. So Luke is trying to figure out the Vong aren't connected to the Force. We don't really know what's going on. So Luke is trying to figure out whether they're still like connected to the universe as a whole, whether they're deserving, care. And Jason is basically like, well, they're pretty much like us, just with bad parents. And that's enough for Luke to be like, okay, so we can fight them without me having to worry about eliminating them entirely from the galaxy.
Yeah. We open up the book with the overtures by Han and Leia to the Imperial Remnant, so they're going to be brought into the Galactic Alliance that Cal Omas, the new Chief of State, wants to form.
We got a little Dorja in this one.
Yeah, the Dorja the Younger.
Yeah,
no relation, I'm sure.
Definitely a relation. It's that her father was a
Star Wars
Star Destroyer captain.
But yeah, so yeah, we open with Han and Leia meeting with Pelion. One of the few authors in the latter NJO period that are willing to, in fact, say Empire's still bad. That was refreshing.
I like
no one else goes on that tack in the future, by the way.
Yeah, Pelion gets whitewashed quite a bit to be this like noble grandfather type figure who just happened to be an Imperial. When in this one, he's very much like they use the flower analogy where he's got this big garden. And Han's like, I like my flowers free. And Leon's like, no. Like, room for everyone, but call the weak.
Yeah, like, so we'll probably talk a lot about that kind of characterization because it's a big part of what drives the book. Like, you have Pelion. I want to talk a bit about fucking Crefay as well. Luke, like, it's all in there. But Jason returns. Jason and Jaina each get a little bit of time off, and the Jedi Council forms, the election's happening, and we end up, as you said, getting to the Battle of Ebaq 9, which is the battle that turns the war onto the New Republic side. They're finally able to have a good, solid victory by using Akbar's strategy of, if you're going to lose a battle, don't, and then have a battle you will win.
Yes.
So Akbar's back in action, technically. It is his last appearance in Legends. He gets carted off at the end. It's a big triumphant moment for him, but we'll get to this as well. He ends by being disappointed by how part of it goes. He seems completely forlorn. He's wheeled off, and then we never.
He's with his girl. He's with his girl, though.
Yeah, maybe it's just the cover, but yeah. So that's the overall plot of the book, and I think part of it is that Walter John Williams, the guy who wrote the book, despite being just John Williams with Walter in front of it, this is his only Star Wars work, I think. I don't think he did any short stories either.
I recognize his name from one of the Tales of series, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, he's never written a full novel before. He wrote Elysia as well, which is basically just an interlude in the NJO. So it's basically the same book.
Yeah.
But I feel like he is very disconnected from Star Wars, which I think is both how you get like, oh, the Empire are still the bad guys, right, everyone? But also some of the other weird characterizations of characters. Not sure about the Luke wanting to commit a genocide thing. I think that might have been out already. But like Nek Buatu, or not Nek Buatu, Admiral Crefay is like, he's wild in this book. He's like cheering for genocide. Not great. Not a great look.
Yeah, like so the Bothans declare there is it the Akai? Is that what it is?
Arkai, yeah.
Arkai, yeah. Which is basically we heard a bit of about it when we did the Thrawn duology. It's kind of like when they declare like species non grata, and it's full like they fight until they're done, until they're dead or the Vong are dead. So they declare that, and then he completely changes. He's all happy about it. Like he's loving it. He's like every day spit on a Yuuzhan Vong, every day kick a Yuuzhan Vong shins. Like
like I can understand. I can see a world where you get Arkai and like it's put forward that like this is Crefay's doing that kind of made them go for it. And I could see having him be consistent with how he's been for the rest of the books and still doing that, and it being a bit more of a like, oh, this is a bad choice made by a guy who was in a desperate situation. And even if it's wrong morally, like we can kind of see him still being the same character doing it. But then like he's always been this kind of level-headed, but convicted commander for the rest of the war. He was willing to work with Pelion. He was willing to he was willing to do what he thought he needed to win the war. Like he threatened along with Wedge to take the military elsewhere. But in this, he's just like hooting and hollering about, we got him. And then like he's swinging his hands around on the bridge and almost hitting Jason. It's a bit weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And there were a lot of points in this book where I was like, I like what they're doing, but I wish it had been a different author writing it. Especially the Battle of Ebaq. Like it drove me crazy that it kept referring to like fleet formations as squadrons.
Yeah.
Like he'd say like a squadron of ships, and I was like, oh, fighters? No, he means like 12 capital, or like not 12, but he means like a group of capital ships.
Yeah.
Just one little example.
Ebaq stands out as a like one of the big battles of the war, and I was excited to get back to it, but it's not real. Like as a battle, you don't really get a lot of sense for what's going on, and it takes up like 40 pages, despite being like all these forces.
Yeah, I had like a good idea early. Like he did a good job explaining it early, where the Yuuzhan Vong are. They've got like 5 fleets, and 2 of them or one's attacking, 2 are sort of doing I forgot the lover's embrace, and then 2 are back. But once I don't know if he lost internal consistency. It's just I was like, man, I really wish Michael Stackpole had been writing this.
Yeah, it like even just from a character standpoint, like there's so many big moments in this of like forming the Jedi Council is one thing, but even just having the reunion of all the solos, like this is Jason's been in captivity for a few books. He's just coming back to the family now. And well, I liked a lot more what he did with what Vergere, like being explicit with what Vergere's interest in Jason was. I feel like there should have been more, like, if you're going to write this book, I think you need to read Young Jedi Knights, and he didn't. Because I remember watching an interview with him or reading an interview with the author and him saying like, I had Jason running all around, like Jason, his reunion scenes were mostly with Danny Quee because I was unaware of like the friendship between him and Loie and him and Zach, him and especially Tenel Ka. And if he had known about that, he would have kind of changed who Jason was spending time with. Because there's no interaction between Jason and Tenel Ka, even though she is there.
Yeah. There were a lot of issues like that where just left wanting, I guess. That was disappointing. And too much of it's presented, I think, like a little uncritically, like Luke forming Luke reforms the Jedi Council, and he does half of it's civilians, half of it's Jedi, and like he totally integrates himself with the government, which later on that's something he comes to regret. By the time of Fate of the Jedi, he realizes they become too intertwined. But it's kind of presented uncritically in the book.
I don't know, like Luke talks about it as a thing he needs to do to get the agreement to do it. And you do have Vergere there as the character telling him, like, no, don't do this.
Yeah.
This is a bad thing. But part of the problem with that coming from Vergere is that she is such...
Sorry, I'll be right back. I sure dogs pick up.
Yeah, so Vergere is kind of meant to be this enigma. And well, I think the book does a better job of kind of showing what her ideas might be or what her problems with what Luke's doing might be. I still think it's harder to take the objections that she is making as seriously. And let me know what you think about this, Murphy. I can see you on... No, Murphy left. He didn't want to talk about Destiny's Way. It's harder to take things that Vergere sets up as being like serious objections because of it's Vergere. Like, you don't know what her motivations are. So I can kind of see where you're coming from, Justin, as you sit down, where like maybe Vergere being the one to make those objections isn't enough.
Yeah, I guess I forgot about her. But I mean,
she doesn't play a very big part in the book.
It's just like Luke, the whole book has been about, or the whole series, the early part of the series has been about, kind of the schisms in the Jedi.
Yeah.
With Luke not wanting to be the only figurehead, or not wanting to be, the only, or the figurehead, I guess.
Yeah.
And then in this book, he's just making these rash decisions, and it's like him and Mara sitting in a like a hotel room deciding who's going to be on the Jedi Council. And like I was just thinking, like, there are so many other Jedi they could have named. Like where's
Corrin.
Corrin was the most obvious one.
I think Corrin, I don't know, I think for the ones that weren't chosen, there was a decent reason given. Like, Corrin has mostly stepped back from the Jedi at this point because he got all the blame for Ethor.
That is true.
Streen is a crazy old man. And then Cam and Tion are more oriented around running the academy. And I'm not sure who else is really, because the ones we end up with are Luke, Sabah Sebatine as representation for the Knights. We have Cam Solusar as someone who has a long military career. Sabah Sebatine, did I say her second? Either way. Luke, Tricina, Sabah, Kip, Cam, someone else.
Isn't it Streen? Doesn't Streen
No,
get on?
Streen isn't on it. Streen is
not on. Okay.
And they get Tricina's species wrong, where she's a Chev instead of a Chevin, or vice versa.
Oh yeah,
where she's supposed to be basically a human, but her planet has this other species of like snout people. Silgal. How did I forget Silgal? I love Silgal, and Silgal was the one I missed.
Silgal, yeah. How did you forget her? Right, because I knew it was the one, whoever wasn't a master, because Silgal's only a knight at this point.
No, Sabah's only a knight.
Oh, Sabah's only a knight, okay.
Silgal is, I think, the first master other than Luke, really.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's not a deep roster that the Jedi have. And Vergere even calls them imitation Jedi later on, which is kind of fucking rude.
I get the feeling that there's like, if I were to put a number, I'd say like 400.
I think it's even less than that. I think it's closer to 100.
Really?
At this point. Like after the Voxen, at least. Because Unifying Force tries to give a definitive roster of them, which is always a mistake. It leaves out a few. But I think it's like 100 at that point, because they get them all together at the end of the war. And I think like even Jaden's mentioned in that, so it was pretty complete for the time. But no characters from Scourge, unfortunately.
Yeah, and no Kyle. Well, maybe
I think Kyle was,
but not in this book. Not in this book.
Yeah, Kyle does nothing in the whole war until the comics come out. But yeah. I don't know. What did you think about? Because a big part of what we're going to be talking about for the post NJO, at least, is Jacen and how fitting or not that Jacen goes dark. Part of that is something like, is Vergere being a Sith, which I disagree with, as like I don't think she was a Sith, but I don't think
I don't think she is. But I like reading this, I kind of understood a bit more why the connection was made, because like the writing, it's stupid. Like Jason at the end of the book, Force Lightning's a bunch of Yuuzhan Vong. And
Yes.
like to him, the distinction because he doesn't kill them, it's okay.
Yeah.
And we get like a lot of, Vergere's all about, well, it's really the
Lying.
discussion of what makes something evil versus good.
Yeah.
And it comes to like, okay, you're using your anger, but like, where does the anger itself stem from? So it gets pretty weird.
Yeah, and then, like, the distinction so Vergere is like, "Oh, the anger's a natural response. It's how you used it that mattered." And, like, did you act out of, like, uncaring passion, or did you act out of self-knowledge that led you to be angry? And if you do the latter, then it's not dark. Then Luke asks the question I had, which is, well, Palpatine is a pretty controlled person, but he was still dark. And Vergere's like, he wanted to be.
Yeah, exception. He's cold evil. It's different.
Yeah. So, like, I can really see how, like, there's edges of it in Traitor where there was less known about the Jedi as well, a little bit, like a little bit
Mhm.
earlier. Because you have like Obi-Wan and Yoda lying their fucking asses off in the original trilogy. And that's all
Yeah.
he had to work off of. But in this, you get more of like I had to torture him. I had to. I had to lie to him. I had like all the shit that Vergere is doing is stuff that you could easily see a Sith saying as their training method. So I
Yeah.
understand where that comes from, even if I don't think Vergere was a Sith Lord when this shit happened.
No, I think she's definitely not. And I mean, we'll talk about that a lot when we get to Legacy of the Force, but
Yeah.
it's just there were just a lot of really questionable aspects, and that ties into even Luke's,
Yeah.
decision to fully Luke basically allows open season on the Yuuzhan Vong as well. Where he's
Yeah.
like, you can hit them, you can do whatever you want as long as it's, not for no reason, which
Yeah.
okay, but like I thought the scene with him and Kip was really contrived in the Jedi Council meeting. I didn't like that scene at all.
Yeah. It
Just
really
very
undercut
cheesy.
the argument Luke actually had.
Mhm.
Because yeah, Luke just says, "I was wrong earlier. You were actually allowed to do whatever you wanted to fight the Vong. Because my concern was, since we couldn't see them in the Force, we would go dark. But you're fine. Like
Yeah,
that. It really
yeah,
not great.
pretty weak. What wasn't weak, however, is Jason giving all the Yuuzhan Vong athlete's foot. I thought that was sick.
Yeah. So the Yuuzhan Vong are trying to control Coruscant, like do their Vong shaping, where they turn it from this ecumenopolis into a plantumenopolis. They have a centralized world brain that kind of controls all the fungi on the planet. And well, Jason
Controls
tells the world
everything.
brain, "I'm a pretty fun guy," and takes over and can tell it to. So that basically makes their sewer shit everywhere, makes it sick
Yeah.
and shit everywhere.
Well, it does multiple things. It does that, but then just the athlete's
In
foot thing was just
sewer.
separate.
Yeah. Coruscant's not doing well. It's not treating its new hosts well,
No.
and it's all Jason's fault.
And they're still dealing with, we get hints that they're still dealing with rebellion and little pockets of
Yeah.
resistance across the planet.
Yeah, so we get Nominor starts getting a little bit involved with the heresy that's coming in of like the Jedi are their saviors, and we start to see some turning against the gods. Most importantly, Nominor realizes the gods are probably not real in this book. That
Yeah.
there's like the Yuuzhan Vong religion and society in tech has 8 cortexes, and they each have like different levels of tech you can unlock in an RTS. And then the 8th cortex, they forgot to program that in. So the new shapers are like going through it and making up new shit.
Nominor built the last research station.
Yeah, so he realizes that everything's just been a sham. And it
I
the
wish
whole
that had
series go ahead.
Yeah. I wish they'd handled that with a bit more like gravitas, I guess. Because he
Yeah.
kind of just figures it out like he's like undercover, basically like walking around and kind of pieces it together.
Yeah. Well, it's good for him because that sets him up for what he's going to do after this, because he's responsible for the information that sends the Yuuzhan Vong into the trap at Ebaq 9. And now he's going to be on the run because he's fucked up for the last time.
Yeah, because we get a lot. Well, this book I think is the most we've gotten of Shimrra,
Yes.
and Onimi as well. Shimra's his little jester, basically,
Yeah.
who we learn more about later. No spoiler there, but yeah. So Shimrra is the war is going pretty well, but they've suffered some setbacks. Shimrra knows also that there's nothing in the eighth cortex, so
Yeah.
he's got Nenyim, right, working on it.
Yeah. Nenyim is working
Working
on it
on they're
for
working on
Onimi.
inventing new technology, which is
Yeah.
the Yuuzhan Vong aren't supposed to do that, but they're at the point where the New Republic has developed a bunch of these technologies, which they have something that counters the war coordinators, the Yamuths. They've got something which basically messes up their friend or foe identifier on their ships. So the New Republic's got a tactical advantage, or a technological advantage for a few months until, and there's nothing in Yuuzhan Vong knowledge that counters this. So she's secretly working to basically figure it out. And we're gonna see. I don't know. I guess it'll probably be next book where we start to see some of the new creations come out the line, like the new what are the soldiers called again?
The Slayers that they end
The
up, which are
Slayers.
like
Yeah. Well, does that be next book?
modified Jedi. I don't think those come in until Unifying Force or the Final
Okay.
Prophecy,
Okay.
but we do
Don't they
start
get
to see
new
them
ships
showing
too?
up.
Don't they get new coral skippers? Or am I misremembering?
I forget what the specifics are of like actual ship types, but they do more like fucking with the Dovin basils at least. And I know by the end there are more, but I forget when exactly they start turning up.
I thought they had like a double coral skipper. So maybe I'm misremembering.
There's the Slayer ships that come with the Slayers, which are kind of that, like
Maybe
the
that's what I'm
chunkier
thinking of.
coral skippers. But I
Yeah.
forget when they get introduced exactly. And
Okay.
I think part of what you're thinking of visually may be from mod assets for Empire War mods from like 10 years
Oh
ago.
yeah, it could be.
Because there
Probably.
was some models done for a Yuuzhan Vong War mod for that didn't really get to
That
fruition.
makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, we see a lot of Shimrra. We're seeing this is the Savong Law's last book as well, because basically Savong Law and Nomenor are tied to the hip in this one. Shimrra basically ties their fate. They've got to secure a big victory against the New Republic, and that's how they get led into the trap at Ebaq, where the New Republic are based. Hold on one second. What? Lie down, buddy. I'll be out in a minute. Where the New Republic are basically doing, they're kind of hardening their troops first with like 3 months of skirmishes. Then they set up a decoy base at Ebaq, and the Vong show up and get routed.
Yeah, like the thing was with Shimrra though too, where he's in command of all these meetings. He's the one actually telling them to do stuff. We also get some talk from the other Yuuzhan Vong leaders, like, "Oh, can't you feel his presence? Because like he's using some sort of force-like power." But we get a scene that is from his perspective, and it basically shows that he's just an empty vessel. He is not a functioning being. And that his power seems to be coming through Onimi. So not much more done with that until the end, but a nice little hint that's sprinkled in that, because like he just sits there silent, and then he kind of does what Onimi tells him to, and he like his reaction is kind of weird. Where there's the scene starts with like, what is he's never hurt anybody. Why is this happening to him? Which I don't know that that part gets developed at all. Like, I don't know that that actually goes anywhere.
Yeah.
But like, he's been Supreme Overlord since the Clone Wars, basically. So, or at least acting or de facto, de jure Supreme Overlord, not
Yeah.
actually acting Supreme Overlord.
Yeah. The other one's on maternity leave. She'll be back soon. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. All they get state mandated girlfriends in this one.
Yes. My note for that was Jordan Peterson. That's where the
Our poor warriors, they're out here in the fields. They've got to fight with the reptile soldiers, and they come back, and No blue-eyed women for them. No blue sack women. It's terrible. It's terrible.
These women with their blue sack pouches under their eyes, they shouldn't be dressing like that if they don't want to be harassed by Savang.
They don't even mutilate themselves anymore. Look at her. She got 5 fingers.
Numbers in the Bible. That's not the number in the 8th cortex.
Classic. What a weirdo.
Because we get the intro that I gave you from Savang Law's new girlfriend, new baby mama.
Mm-hmm.
But they're gonna run out of, like, we've seen nearly a third of the Yuuzhan Vong in the galaxy get killed. So
yeah, and then they lose a ton more in this book. So yeah, it starts off, they lose a bunch in the first battle where they think they've killed Shimrra. It starts off, Jaina has got this big plan, and it goes spectacularly well. Turns out, however, the Republic got some bad intel, shocker. They don't kill Shimrra, but they still take out like a pretty big fleet. And then at Ebaq, they lose probably like 100 ships, hundreds of ships, and then tens of thousands of warriors as well.
Yeah, I can understand how they made that mistake. It was Supreme Commander Com Karsh, not Supreme Overlord Shimrra.
Yeah, classic.
Easy mistake
Classic
to make.
blunder.
But it was still a good victory for them. And they keep their, it's all really from the tech advantage. And that's one of the neat things I think about the series, where there is a lot that changes in how both sides are approaching fighting the war, like the tools available to them. It's something that you don't see as much in like the other series of like, oh, it's some triangles that are coming out, and this is the more powerful triangle we've put out, and here's the more powerful bulby thing we've put out. Like, you get an actual reason for some of these being better, just based on the situation they're in, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts of the NJO, how the Vong have just really surprising technology. And the first thing I think they really innovate is like the stutter firing on the laser cannons, which helps get past the little black holes. And then we see Jedi shadow bombs, and in this book we're getting a lot of battle well, we've got the Jedi mind meld, and then I don't think they ever call it this, but Jason does use kind of a battle meditation to coordinate the fight, which is something I was kind of happy I forgot that he did that, because that's one of the big things he does in Legacy of the Force.
Yeah,
where he's on his ship, and like he's not really in a starfighter very much in that book. He's just always on the Anakin Solo, just very powerful, like across the galaxy though in that one.
It's really an extension of like his empath abilities from his younger days being applied to coordinating humans. So I think it's something that really makes sense for him to be doing.
Yeah.
And I do have some complicated feelings on Darth Kaitis, but I feel like you get enough hints at that being a possible future for him that if you look at it, it's more that I dislike how it was handled in practice. Like, you get enough here that it's not inconceivable that going through what he went through with the Yuuzhan Vong, feeling so often like the whole galaxy is on his shoulders and he's the only one that can do anything about it, and also having so many situations where he uses all of those abilities and throws away some of his bigger purpose, bigger picture perspective in order to save the people he loves, that I can see him making the choices. Yeah, like in this book and in Traitor, he's throwing out lightning. He's willing to throw away everything to save Jaina. So the idea that he would do something Sithy with his broader perspective of the Force being like, it does, like, there's nothing wrong with throwing out some lightning or choking some people. It's my intentions that matter with the whole potentiate.
Yeah, I'm not killing them. I'm just paralyzing them. I mean, they're going to die on this exploding asteroid, but
and then he kind of falls down in the dark side because he thinks that this is the only way to save Alana. Like, I can see that route, and I can see the kind of seeds for that here with, like, he makes the choice he does with Jaina, and then Vergere says, like, he's made his choice, like, he chose with his heart. He has to live with the consequences. In that situation, it was specifically about Vergere being upset that she's dead now. Not even that upset. She comes, like, she's a Force ghost immediately.
Instantly, yeah.
And she can, like, join the meld. She's fine, realistically. Yeah. But, like, there's enough there to work with for a Sith Jason, even if I don't specifically like the interpretation that we get in Legacy of the Force.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also liked I like Jaina being scared of dying. Like
Yeah.
Jaina has like extreme existential dread in this, where she's being thrown into battle after battle after battle, and
Mhm.
she's kind of right that like, and this is something the Rogue Squadron books dealt with a lot too, where it's like when you're a fighter pilot, doesn't matter how good you are, it's only a matter of time. Like one of her wingmates at one point gets annihilated by just like bad luck. Like I think they get hit
Yeah.
by like a piece of debris or something, and like there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah. Like she has no good support structure, and then Luke calls her out as the sword of the Jedi on stage, not really thinking about what he's doing. Like it's
Yeah,
a force message for her.
yeah,
And it was, I think, a good conclusion to her recent arc of having her not want to die in Ebaq, even though it did come with the baggage of like, oh, look at all these other people who died for me.
yeah. And that last scene was really goofy, I thought.
Savon Lob not being dead.
Well, that, but just the entire there. So Ebaq is like a little moon the
Hmm.
Empire used, and it's just like they're like running through tunnels, and like, it's sort of that problem that the series was going to get from the very beginning, where Mara is in a life or death battle with one Yuuzhan Vong,
Yeah.
or the Voxen, one Vong or one Voxen kills 6 or 7 Jedi, and like at this point they're running through the tunnels, killing the Vong by the dozens, killing Voxen. There's this like the last 6 or 7 they've got left. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It seemed like they had a lot of Voxen left at the start of this. That was,
yeah, all on that ship, all very old too. For
yeah.
Voxen, they
Well,
age pretty.
they had been kind of falling apart since Star by Star because they couldn't make fresh ones. But
Yeah,
yeah, like they're killing a bunch of them. There are 20,000 ground troops with Savong Law's forces. 10,000 go back through hyperspace and blow up in some mines. 10,000 go down to the fucking mine shafts, and they all get wiped out by one crashing A-wing. They do turn into kind of Zerg
yeah,
shock troop
yeah,
explosions. Can't do
totally do.
much.
So the other thing we haven't even talked about is I don't guess it's like the C plot. So, well, Cal Omis is elected. He's Luke and the crew throw their support behind him because he's the most pro Jedi. There's Fiora Rodin is one of the other ones. He's like one of the main ones. Um, and there's just the various levels of Jedi sentiment, and Cal is elected, and Luke is like, wow, this is the first time I've had a government that's really supportive of the Jedi, which I don't know. I guess that's true. There were parts that, the old New Republic, especially when Leia was Chancellor, where I'd say they were pretty supportive of the Jedi. Like they sent a
Yeah.
fleet over Yavin for a while. Um, but after
It was
being
really
elected,
just Borsk that wasn't.
yeah, like there were times, I guess, when like the Jedi were political issues, like there were political issues with them, but overall, yeah, I agree. But we learned that the Chiss, alongside the New Republic's special forces or special research division, have been developing a Yuuzhan Vong bioweapon. Kind of every bit of Yuuzhan Vong technology, everything from their galaxy has a specific genetic marker, and they've tailored a bioweapon for this marker. Meaning that if they release it, it's called Alpha Red. It will kill not just all the Yuuzhan Vong, but all of their technology as well. And Luke, realizing he should have empathy for these things, even though they're not within the Force, is like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. And that's kind of what leads also to him wanting to have a decisive victory. Kind of so
Mhm.
the
Is is Luke just thinking the whole time I should murder every droid I see?
I guess so, yeah. He's
Okay.
thinking about
Well,
it.
but yeah, so Cal has been in on the Alpha Blue, Alpha Red project uh since the start. And it seems like Trebek is offering to coup him.
Totally is, yeah. Because he's like to Luke, he's like, we can do what we need to do.
Yeah. And they're
Luke's
like
like, well,
Trebek
hold
and
on.
Cal, they're besties. When Cal nearly gets assassinated the uh by the Yuuzhan Vong assassins that Naminor sends and Mara kills, they're both hanging out in the same apartment. So Cal, noted bachelor, Ebaq. I mean, this could have been a lovers to coors story.
Yeah. That we'll get that in Legacy of the Force. I was kind of surprised we didn't see. I was thinking we don't see. Do we see Drayson in this at all? Is he in this book?
If he is, he's not in that much. Is he
Guess he's
retired
off in,
by
like,
now?
Chiss space. I don't think so.
Because Diff Score kind of has the job that that Drayson typically had before. Yeah, so NJO, he only gets mentioned
In the Unifying Force, probably at like Kashyyyk at the end.
yeah, indirect mention in Unifying Force. So it's probably like his daughter, like someone
Bindi?
says, "Hey, Bindi, how's your dad?" or something.
I did like how I don't know if this was intentional, but the Alpha Red reminds me a lot of the Krytos virus
Yeah,
from the X-Wing series, where it like basically liquefies your inside. Very like one of the grosser moments in Star Wars is when that gets out and people like just turn disgusting. I
Yeah.
do wonder if the
that
intention was that
one
it
was based off of like that one targeted aliens.
yeah,
or
non-humans.
un-
Yeah, so I was kind of I don't know if it was ever I wonder whether it was meant to be like based on the research.
I
don't
thought
know.
I remembered somewhere saying that it was based on the Krytos virus, but I might have made that up. So I'm gonna see, because yeah, it's good. I think it's nice that it gets introduced here, giving Luke an opportunity to really take a stand against the genocide he was considering. But the like it kind of gets resolved in the same book because Vergere kills it, and then it's going to take more time to rebuild
Yeah,
it.
she doesn't really give them an opportunity. So, one other aspect that I noted, let me just pick up. Oh, speaking of other EU connections, one thing that I thought was really funny is so Winter gets introduced. She's like the nursemaid now to Akbar in his old years, and they talk about everything she's been through, and it says from Sabayoth to Fergan. And I was like, who the fuck is Fergan? I was like, Jedi
Remember
Sith.
Ambassador Fergan?
Yeah, and he's the guy in the spider
Yeah.
walker who gets pushed off the edge. I was like, of all the threats that she's dealt with, I guess that's the one of the ones she was most indirect or most directly involved in. 'Cause
Yeah,
if I remember
she's
correctly,
usually just babysitting the kids.
yeah, it's just it was funny from Sabayoff and like to who Palpatine or Fergan. But
The
she
funny
was
one
there.
to
I don't
me there
remember
is-
what. Are they on New Alderaan in that book? I don't remember, but
That's where he was like, she was on Anoth.
Anov, yeah.
Anoth? Yeah, it was Anoth with Anakin, and then
And the
Fergan comes to
droid,
the
right?
MTATs to fucking capture him. And it's basically just her and Anakin getting saved by Akbar flying in a fighter, I think. Because Akbar's in the middle of being disgraced, right? And
Yeah.
he's in his alcoholic days, I think.
Don't they have a droid too? Like, isn't that when they have got like the droid that like has breasts?
I think the breast droid is Ben's later on. They have a less explicit droid.
They definitely have a droid though.
Maybe they all have breasts, but yeah, they do have. They do have. Yeah, I'm looking at the picture now. It's
How big are they, Corey?
yes.
Spare no details.
Does what? Why is okay? I get why Fergan is coming up because that's something Winter dealt with directly. But who the fuck cares about Sabayoth? No one seemed that concerned about him during the Thrawn trilogy. Just
No,
Luke
he
and
does try to
Mara.
kidnap the Jedi. Remember? Well, not Sabayoth directly, but
Yeah, Thrawn for Sabayoth. So that was more the Nogri or something.
I'm just remembering. Like, yeah, that's true. Nogri are here. They get mentioned.
Yeah, Meewall.
They're usually in turrets or.
Yeah. They were kind of main characters in the early parts of the war, but now Leia's been through so many Nogri bodyguard that I think Conagar is nearly done with its population regrowth because they're
like,
all
please,
died.
you're taking our farmers. We're only barely recovering from.
Shut up! We're going back to the Empire. Getting the tuts.
Can't you have any other ambassador do these things? Gotta be us. Can you at least fix the Falcon's hyperdrive? No.
If you want it fixed, you get back there. Might explode on you. I don't know.
Hold it together. We also get the end of the New Republic in this book as well.
Cal Omas in his corruption-filled sweeping to victory get some bigger ideas of
let's
reforming.
Change the Constitution.
Just get a fresh one. I mean,
right
if you
right in the middle of war is definitely when we should be doing this.
If you have most of your planets get depopulated, it's a great time to make a new constitution. And
all right, Coruscant gets a veto on all constitutional decisions. Coruscant, do you have any message? Oh, that's weird. They're not on this call.
Well, he has great ideas. Like, what if there's an independent judiciary?
To be fair, yeah.
They want to become a true federation. Like this is one of the most explicitly detailed books about how the government actually works in the New Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So like these aren't things that anyone planned. Like if you're writing a Star Wars book in this period, you can't just go to Leland Shee and say, hey, give me that write-up on the New Republic's government. He basically got to make all these choices, which is why some of them wouldn't quite match with things we had heard before. But we see their voting process, which is the senators choose the Supreme Chancellor. There's no general election for that. You choose your senator, they choose the Supreme Chancellor.
Mm-hmm.
Need the confidence of the House. You have multiple rounds of voting, and then a lot of corruption because all the senators get blackmailed by Lando
and they're just like blackmailed in like 2 days.
Yeah,
like, it takes nothing, like literally nothing.
All of these politicians were just waiting for an opportunity. Like there's only profiteering.
To be fair, half like skipped out on Coruscant by like stealing ships or like
yeah. Well, this book does have one of my most memorable moments in Star Wars, like when they're on Mon Calamari and you get the drunk guys shouting at the senators. That scene has stayed with me in the last like 20 years more than any Star Wars scene for some reason.
Wow.
Like I always remember Senator Sneak Away and Senator Scramble Free, and I will until I die.
Good. I do like Luke and Mara just like standing up. Just imagine like a walkway, just like no. Let's see how this plays out.
Hear him out.
Yeah, it's like fair play. I wish they had spent more time talking about Mon Cala. Because like it gets described like in passing, but would like to hear more about the planet other than how dank the hotel rooms are.
Everything's soggy. Yeah. Jason gets to hang out at a beach, which he isn't thrilled about. I do like the conversations between Luke and Vergere. Like I think Destiny's Way probably gets Vergere closest to how Stover uses her and how Stover tries to set her up, even though that does leave a lot of ambiguity for interpretation and what her motives are.
That's fine, though, I think.
Yeah. It's just they did leave the door open for that, even if I don't like the way the door was walked through. Because she's very concerned about
her to be a Sith, honestly. Like a dark side or maybe, but like an actual like
because like I could take the interpretation of both her and Vergere or her and Jason having been like, because of what they went through with the Yuuzhan Vong, there's an edge to them that isn't great. And like Jason's destiny is saving the Yuuzhan Vong from destroying themselves and being involved in that. But I like the idea that Vergere was hanging out with Palpatine early was his apprentice or something. Like that. Really fucking stupid. And I feel like there's enough in the future books, which we'll talk about then, that like we're only really hearing that from Lumaya. There is the conversation between her and Crate in one of the comics, but I don't think it's that explicit about her being a Sith. Like there's notes in the Jedi and Sith book of Luke saying Vergere was Sith or something like that. But
Yeah.
like she has the objection to the hollows of Ben, where she's like, Luke, what the fuck are you doing allowing Jedi to have kids? Because you're just making
Because this one
another
came out
Darth
after
Vader.
the prequels. Well, after
Yeah.
episode 1.
Yeah. So that's it does put put Legends even further in towards the like the Force is hereditary and that's how everyone gets the Force, which we're kind of still in, but she brought up some interesting problems for the Jedi to have to deal with, even if Luke's response was, we'll deal with that later.
Luke's response is, let's become cops and
Always
diplomats.
wants to be one. Yeah, like Fire Rodan is not wrong. And Luke picks up on the fact that he's not wrong.
Yeah.
It's just the government of the New Republic ends up being entirely corrupt as well. So, not a great situation.
Yeah. It's also like one thing that's kind of weird is like Luke acts like the Jedi can't do anything if they don't if they're not wanted, when like throughout the war they've been out doing things.
Yeah. They've always kind of been able to do whatever they wanted, which is what Fire Rodan's problem with them was.
Yeah.
That they really aren't answerable to anyone or anything. And like Luke's responses to him are like, well, shouldn't we just do what we want? Which is not going to convince me, at least, if I'm in his position.
No.
We have access to superpowers. Isn't that enough?
No.
It's really not.
Any other notes you had for this book? I'm just looking.
So
they're making MC-80s still.
Yeah. The Republic class cruiser, I think, only comes up in this book. Because it's not the Republic Star Destroyer. Maybe it's come up in a few other places in the war, but it never got the same attention that other stuff did. But okay, yeah, it's in a lot. It's in Destiny's Way, Elysia, Unifying Force, Revelation, Ascension. So it comes up more.
But it's
just
never described in any sort of way. Like it's just Republic class cruiser.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah.
So I guess the only other thing is with all the talk of the religion stuff, it really does put me back in my desire more than any other recent book to read the end of history again and write about how this was influenced by real world in the real world some Islamophobic feelings. Whether that translates directly to Islamophobia on the part of the authors, I don't know, or just general.
I mean, if you listen to the audiobook,
yeah.
Gee, okay. It's like, come on, everyone sounds like Jafar from Aladdin.
Not great.
No.
I was gonna give the authors the benefit of the doubt of just like general religious spookiness that they were kind of xenophobic about, but if it was as specific as the real world fears were of the day, then it's on them too.
It's a video I would watch.
Because like the takeaway from it is like be nice to refugees, which is good. It's not like it's not about the rest of the world being evil or not. Sorry, not the rest of the world. It's not about this other species of unidentified
refugees in this one. They say fuck them refugees.
Okay, they do sometimes say fuck the refugees.
I think Admiral Akbar says that explicitly.
Well, okay, that's less. You shouldn't be nice to refugees. It's more we can't protect them right now, which is the root of a lot of the.
We can't afford to be nice to refugees.
Yes.
Right now.
We've got our own problems before we let all these refugees in.
Cannot.
So yeah, before he slinks off to die in a pool, he gives a big middle fin to the refugees. But like, I mean, he is even in the whole thesis that Luke and the Jedi get to is it's not the people, it's their government and their culture that we must strip them of. It's like, okay, you found a slightly different version of xenophobia to go with, which I guess is
not
a
even
better
that
version.
Different, like a little different.
for the 90s and early 2000s, maybe that was progressive. And like this is coming out in the wake of 9/11 as well. So like the war on terror was going on. Like we're in early days of the war on terror. So like the talk of it's not the people, it's the government. It's this is not something that would have been like something the authors were unaware of when they're saying it. And there's a lot of the end of the NJO and how they get to it is very much in the same vein of the "we'll be greeted as liberators" viewpoint.
Yeah.
And like you can see some of the references, some of the like inspiration for where the story is coming from that are like going back to End of History, going back to Clash of Civilizations, that then takes on another look in the wake of 9/11 and like the Project for the New American Century in the earlier days. And like the influences are very much there and very uncomfortable. So that's
Thankfully, we've got the perfect medium to handle that.
a
Star Wars
podcast.
schlock.
Yeah.
In this book, the main character is going to become a god. It'll be so sick.
Yeah.
It'll be so sick. He's going to turn into pure energy.
Like there were a lot of genocidal, xenophobic alien species that were introduced that were very clearly coded specific ways.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Avitha, they just there's mentions of different religious headdresses for the Yuuzhan Vong.
Mm-hmm.
For the Avitha, they just gave them turbans.
They're just wearing turbans, yeah.
Like it's very
we don't have those, so it's a little scary.
Yeah. Like it's
a little creepy.
It's the exact kind of thing that if it got pitched now, you'd at least see people say, maybe this isn't how we should approach this. And that is a very positive change.
Yeah.
That's my partial rant about that for now.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that. But yeah,
so what are you giving
that image where like he's like holding up two fingers and he's got like a turban on.
Yeah, like, it's not a good look.
No.
I mean the turban, that's a great look for many people. Not a good look for Star Wars to be putting all the villains. If you're gonna have a turban in Star Wars, you turn into a villain, is what they went with. Which don't fucking do that. Yeah. So what's your rating for Destiny's Way?
I'll give it a C. Nah,
I'm giving it a B. Does that influence you at all?
Yeah, I'll give it a B too, I guess. Also, doesn't Dengar kind of have like a turban?
Kind of. I don't know if he's a protagonist though.
No, he's a bad guy.
Okay, what is
just further evidence?
It's 2, 4. All right, so our last book, The Living Force, we gave a C. Destiny's Way, we have given a B. What's our lowest? So Traitor, I gave an S, you gave an A. I'm kind of seeing where our lowest NJO book was. Edge of Victory, that's a 3 and a 4. Balance Point, you gave a D.
Oof, didn't like that one.
I think that's our worst NJO book score is Balance Point. I don't think I've given anything in NJO below a 3. You've given a 2 out. And I think I've been like 1 higher than you on most NJO books. So
you've just been glazing it the whole time.
Yeah. So because I'm a
shill. You're a shill for Del Rey.
Shill.
Yep. Very creative marketing campaign here. See if it pays off.
An hour-long podcast where I was mostly complaining about the book.
We paid him $30. It'll be sick.
Man, I'd love to get paid $30 for one of these podcasts. I'd
love to not lose money on the hosting service for fuck's sake.
I have my StreamYard subscription just for TapCaf, and that costs $15 a month. And let me tell you, the ad revenue does not make up for that.
Nope.
But yeah, so that is going to do it for Destiny's Way. On Wednesday, we are going to be talking about the Acolyte episode 6 on our normal show time slot, at least. The next book we're going to be doing is Temptation of the Force. We're going to have Ilkin on for that, which will be the 18th or the 11th. What are you thinking?
Let's see how I feel after this weekend. I'll start listening to it.
So we'll start working on that. Oh yeah, the newer ones come with audiobooks right away, right? So that's at least better. Yep. So we'll talk about Temptation of the Force, the next book in the High Republic series, in a couple weeks. It won't be this long of a gap between NJO books. What's the next one? It's
Say Ruby, isn't it?
Does it go straight into the Force Heretics trilogy?
There's only 3 left. Isn't it Force Heretics? Or 4 left? The 2 5. Force Heretics and the... Oh, okay.
Because I can never remember if Final Prophecy is before Force Heretic or after. So it's 6 actually then, because...
Jesus Christ.
No, 5. Because it's the Force Heretic trilogy.
Force Heretics 3. I forgot Force Heretics 3.
Yeah. And then Final Prophecy and Unifying Force. So yeah, it's 5 books. Okay. Each longer than the last? Oh God, Unifying Force is 544. Jesus Christ. 320, 390, 432, 432. Okay. So
all right, we should be done by 2026.
Yeah. All right. Happy Canada Day, everyone. Happy America Day in a couple days. Well, the emails we got were about Acolyte, so we could do them now. We could talk about them
we'll say that.
On Wednesday. I think makes more sense. I assumed our emails would not have been about Acolyte, so I hadn't looked. It was just Acolyte and my Habbo Hotel sign up for Catfishing Charlie. But
wait, you were that was you?
I was one of them.
Were you the one that made the Instagram account? Was that you?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't go that deep into it.
That would have been so funny. You could have played him for a long time. Just search up like Goth GF and use like the first picture you find.
No, I made a Habbo Hotel account. I did not make an Instagram account for that. Okay. And then he was on to me anyway, so it didn't matter.
I was a few beers in, so I don't really remember. So.
All right. We got a question. Couldn't a Jedi use tactical pocket sand with the Force? Could they force scoop a handful of sand or dirt up and throw it tactically in a street fight? Yeah. I think that kind of happens with ambient sand, I guess, is the other. It's just they're not resourceful enough to bring their own pocket sand. So you're already ahead of them on that.
We know who Dale should have been one of the Jedi Council members.
Is he Kent Hamner?
He kind of is, yeah, because he's like he is, because he's like veteran. Dale would definitely be hanging out on like a Bespin mining platform for sure. So yeah, good call.
No, that's Streen.
Oh yeah, that's Streen. Yeah.
So I guess Streen works as well.
Yeah.
We'll just have to do a whole podcast on which Jedi Council member in Luke's order was which King of the Hill character.
I think Kent would be more like Hank. Because he's by the rules, sells propane and propane accessories.
Maybe Hank's dad?
Yeah. I don't think he's quite as unhinged, though.
He tries to murder the rest of the council when they just want to go help Luke.
Yeah, but he thinks he's abiding by the rules. Maybe it's like a Peggy.
Mara gets a little Peggy in this book. In that she wants to do every explicit sexual act with Luke that
she literally pegs Luke. No, it doesn't happen, but it might.
We talked about this.
If it were Disney Star Wars,
this has to be like the peak of Mara is just there to be sexy around Luke, right? This is as bad as it gets.
Well, she does do one thing that actually ends up being kind of important. She
gossips about her coworkers.
She finds the spies.
Well, yeah, she does.
Really, it's the new KVH mouse droids.
Yeah, those are neat. They turn some mouse droids into Yuuzhan Vong hunters. That's a good thing that Lando does.
Lando ends up, and that's how they get the fake information about Ebaq out there. So
yeah. All right, for real, that is going to do it for this week. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back with Acolyte and then Temptation of the Force by the time the season's over.
probably 2 Acolyte before Temptation of the Force.
Okay. Well, yeah, because
Definitely
we're
2.
definitely not doing it before the 10th. So we'll see if we can do it by the 11th, maybe the 18th. Hopefully it won't be too long.
Let me see how long the audiobook is. I'll give
all right.
you a good idea right
It's
now.
a pretty long book, but
I don't know if I've bought it yet. Temptation of the Force. It is 17 hours. Yeah, that's pretty long. We'll see. I'll give it a good college try.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.